Welcome back to Tailwind. It's time for another theory quickie. Here's a question from the FAA database. If an emergency situation requires a downwind landing, the pilot should expect a faster A. airspeed at touchdown, a longer ground roll, and better control throughout the landing roll. B. ground speed at touchdown, a longer ground roll, and the likelihood of overshooting the desired touchdown point. Or C. ground speed at touchdown, a shorter ground roll, and the likelihood of undershooting the desired touchdown point. So here we are established on final at the Cat Key Airport, which is a fairly short airport in the Bahamas. We'll be following the Cessna 172 short field procedures, which is to cross the 50-foot barrier at 61 knots, or as close as my flying skills will allow. We also need to apply maximum braking effort after touchdown. I've set zero wind in the simulator at the moment, which means that the true airspeed and the ground speed are equal, as you can see here. And here's the wind vector to confirm that we've got zero wind set. So the idea here is to cross 50 feet at 61 knots, then gradually reducing the power to idle, entering the flare, absolute minimal float, and then touch down and apply the brakes as soon as possible. So we've touched down there just after that second entry taxiway to the runway. The runway length is 1,100 feet, which is doable for the ground roll in the Cessna 172, but does require a pretty timely touchdown. And as you can see, we've come to a stop here with a reasonable amount of runway remaining, so that's pretty safe. Now let's take a look at it while being boosted from the rear. So we're now established back on the final, and if you take a look now at the difference between the true airspeed and the ground speed, and also at the wind vector, you'll see that we have about a 15 knot tailwind component. Now we're aiming again for 61 knots at 50 feet and applying maximum braking after touchdown. Now the ground speed on touchdown on the previous zero wind example was 62 knots, so what we'll do is we'll compare that as we make the touchdown this time. So the touchdown speed there was around 72 knots, and as you can see we touched down a lot closer to the windsock, which is more towards the halfway point down the runway than we did last time. And it also looks like we've taken an impromptu fishing trip, which is always the risk when you take a tailwind landing, so even in an emergency situation it might not necessarily be a very good idea, as you can see here. Still, at least the waves look nice, which is quite appropriate considering that we'll soon be waving goodbye to our pilot's license. So the answer to the question, if an emergency situation requires a downwind landing, the pilot should expect a faster B. ground speed at touchdown, a longer ground roll, and the likelihood of overshooting the desired touchdown point, and possibly getting a wet undercarriage. Doesn't sound too bad really.